Yesterday we spoke about the meaning of the korbanot, of the offerings on the temple, in the temple, I should say, on the altar, that it represents in our servitude to Hashem, getting rid of the passion for inappropriate matters. But the question is still there. Why an animal sacrifice? Does God like steaks? Let's try to discuss this a little bit, but first and foremost, one thing is sure, that God does not want human sacrifices. And we see how God is so protective in Eretz Yisrael, in the Holy Land, where it says, God's eyes are focused there on the beginning to the end of the year. Although today was a tragedy, yesterday, close to 100 people were wounded. But then again, wounded is terrible, but it's not killed. Building damages is terrible, but they're still alive. The miracles which happened over there is just mind-boggling. I heard that a little child flew out a window. They couldn't find her. And then they finally found her walking in the streets, not hurt at all. Obviously scared, confused, crying, but Baruch Hashem, alive. So God is doing those phenomenal miracles for which we have to thank Him and pray Him. One miracle would be enough, would solve all the problems. Mashiach. So Mizmor lesoida orila adenu kol haaretz iudos adenu b'simcha bo lefanav v'nono. Du kadenu Elohim hu asanu v'lo anach namu b'tzam merizah bo yishor b'seder chatzos b'sila. Hoyde leBaruch Shemo ki tov adenu le'olam chasdo v'yado v'der emun asoy. Let's give some tzedakah, my dear friends, whatever it is. And here is some thought. Obviously, when God says, Ish shereach nechoyach l'Hashem, those sacrifices are a very pleasant aroma to me. Now, the burning of flesh and grease and skin and hair is not one of the most pleasant aromas. Yet God says this is a pleasant aroma to me. And God obviously does not need a steak, and God does not need a sandwich, and God doesn't need a piece of cake. God doesn't need these things. So then again, why? And there is an awful lot of discussion about sacrifices. It was the daily practice in the temple. That was basically what was happening in the temple on a daily basis. Numerous sacrifices. Communal sacrifices, private sacrifices, for all kinds of reasons, for sins, for saying thank you, for events, constantly, holidays. So throughout history, great scholars have looked for explanations. All kinds of explanations has been given, including the elevation of the animal species, including the elevation of the inanimate objects, and therefore they had to be sold. Yet it is still left a little bit unclear. So the Rebbe comes up with a complete novel approach. Why are we looking for an explanation? And then the explanation is coming short. We're looking for an explanation in our terms that we should be able to understand why God needs a sacrifice, which is something which we do not understand. So all the explanations that have been given ultimately leaves us more with a question than with an answer. But that, says the Rebbe, is the whole point. Rashi, the basic commentator, in fact, does not even deal with that, does not look for an explanation, does not give any explanations. And why we wonder why. What Rashi does say, on the verse that God says, this is for me a delicious aroma, Rashi says, obviously we're not talking about the beautiful smell, because it isn't a beautiful smell. And God has no smell, so to say. What God says is, I am pleased that you do what I asked you to do. Think of a relationship, a husband and wife, where the wife or the husband asks the partner, do something for me, which to the other one makes absolutely no sense. But we do it, why? It makes you happy. I'm happy to do it. It's not about me understanding it. It's about making you happy, whatever it is. So God says, I am happy that you are doing something for me that I tell you makes me happy. You don't understand it, as we say in Yiddish, is nicht. So you didn't understand. But that's the whole point. The whole point is that when we are willing to do something that we don't understand, that's the best sign of our love, of our care, of our relationship with God. And that's how we get closer to God. That's the Korban, getting close to Him. So, Eibishter, we're ready to bring Korbanot in the Bet HaMikdash because you want it.